When everyone says you're acting like a stranger, it's because you're becoming someone new, someone they can't quite recognize yet. But that's okay. Sometimes we have to lose ourselves before we can truly find who we are. The more you change, the more you realize that the world you once knew doesn't always fit into the life you're trying to build. And that's when you start feeling like a stranger, even in your own existence. Acting like a stranger isn't about losing who you are. It's about shedding the parts of yourself that no longer serve you and embracing the new version of yourself that is emerging from within. There are days when you wake up and feel like you don't even know who you are anymore. It's not that you've forgotten yourself, it's just that the version of you that exists now is so different from who you used to be. When everyone says you're acting like a stranger, it's because they haven't seen the change happening inside you. They still see the old version of you, and they don't realize that you've grown into someone new. Sometimes, acting like a stranger is a sign that you're no longer afraid to be who you truly are, even if that means leaving behind the comfort of who you once were. You don't recognize yourself because you've been growing in ways that no one else can see. You're evolving, and that means that the person you were is no longer the person you are. The strange thing about change is that it happens slowly, almost imperceptibly. One day, you look up and you realize you've become someone entirely new, and the people around you can't keep up with the shift. When everyone says you're acting like a stranger, they don't see the internal transformation taking place. They only see the external changes, but they don't know the battles you're fighting within yourself. You're not acting like a stranger. You're just discovering parts of yourself you never knew existed, and it's taking time for you to understand and accept those changes. The hardest part about change is not the transformation itself, but the way others react to it. People see you differently, and they struggle to understand that you're still the same person, just evolved. Sometimes you have to lose yourself in order to find your true self. It's a painful process, but it's necessary for growth and understanding. There's a beauty in the quiet shift that happens when you start to change. It's not always visible to others, but it's happening deep within you, and that's where the real transformation begins. When everyone says you're acting like a stranger, they're not seeing the layers of your soul peeling away, revealing the person you were always meant to become. Sometimes feeling like a stranger is a sign that you've broken free from the constraints that once held you back. You're no longer trying to fit into a box, and that's what makes you seem different. People say you're acting like a stranger because they don't understand the changes happening inside of you, They don't realize that your evolution is an essential part of your journey. Acting like a stranger is simply a phase in the process of self-discovery. It's when you start questioning everything, including the person you thought you were. When you feel like a stranger, it's often because you're in the middle of a personal reinvention, and not everyone is ready for that shift to take place. The hardest part about change is not recognizing yourself in the mirror anymore, but it's also the most exciting part because it means you're becoming the person you were always meant to be. You might not be acting like a stranger to yourself, but to others, your transformation is visible, and they don't always know how to respond to it. Sometimes the change you go through is so deep that even you don't fully understand it. You feel like a stranger in your own life, yet you know that something better is on the other side of this transformation. When people say you're acting like a stranger, it's because they can't see the person you've become, the person you're still becoming. They're still holding on to the old version of you. You may feel like a stranger in your own life, but that's a sign that you're finally living authentically, shedding the old and stepping into the new without apology. There's a moment when you realize that the world you used to know no longer feels like home. But in that moment, you also realize that you're creating a new home within yourself, one that aligns with your true essence. Feeling like a stranger doesn't mean you've lost your way. It means you're on the path to finding your true self. And it's a journey that requires time, patience, and understanding. When everyone says you're acting like a stranger, it's just because they can't see the whole picture. They can't see the transformation that's happening beneath the surface, the healing that's taking place inside of you. It's strange when you realize the person you were is no longer the person you are. Life changes you in ways you didn't expect, and sometimes you wonder if you even recognize yourself anymore. People say you're acting like a stranger, but the truth is, you're just learning to navigate a world that feels unfamiliar, like you're trying to find yourself in the midst of so much chaos. There comes a time when you outgrow parts of yourself. The things that once brought you joy no longer hold the same weight, and the people you once knew seem so far away, even though they're right in front of you. It's hard to explain the shift, the moment when everything changes and you start to realize that you're no longer the person you used to be. The world tells you one thing, but your heart says something different. When people say you're acting like a stranger, they don't realize that you're just trying to find your way through a maze of emotions, all while holding onto the remnants of who you once were. Sometimes it feels like you're living two lives, one for the world to see and one for the person you've become inside. And the more you try to blend them, the more they seem to drift apart. It's not that you're changing deliberately, it's just that life has a way of transforming you, pushing you to evolve, to grow, to become something new. And in that transformation, you might just start feeling like a stranger to yourself. Everyone says you're acting like a stranger because they can't see what's happening beneath the surface. They don't know the thoughts racing through your mind, the weight you're carrying in your heart. You can't always explain why things feel different. You wake up one day and realize that your thoughts, your feelings, even your dreams have shifted. And while others might notice the change, it's something you've been feeling for a long time. It's as if you've become a person you don't even recognize anymore. Someone who is just trying to survive the day, to make sense of the new reality that's unfolded in your life. Sometimes the people closest to you don't understand the battle you're fighting inside. They see the changes in your behavior, but fail to recognize the transformation happening in your soul. When you start to act differently, it's not because you want to alienate those around you. It's because you're discovering pieces of yourself that were once buried beneath layers of doubt, fear, and uncertainty. Feeling like a stranger in your own life is one of the most unsettling experiences. It's like you've stepped into a new version of yourself, but you're not sure if you belong here yet. It's hard to explain the way your thoughts start to wander when everything around you feels foreign. It's not about rejection, it's about self-discovery and figuring out who you are when you no longer fit the mold others expect. When you change, people start to notice. And when they do, they might tell you that you're acting like a stranger. But maybe that's the point. Maybe you're finally becoming the person you were always meant to be. It's an unsettling feeling when you realize you're not who you used to be. You look around, and the world feels unfamiliar, like you're watching your life through someone else's eyes. Sometimes, the hardest part of change is realizing that you've outgrown the people, the places, and the things that once felt like home. And in that process, you might lose parts of yourself along the way. People say you're acting like a stranger, but the truth is, you're just trying to rebuild yourself, piece by piece, after everything you once knew crumbled away. We all have moments when we wonder if we've lost ourselves, if we're still the same person we used to be. And in those moments, the world seems to judge you for being different, for not fitting into the mold they've made for you. You don't realize you're changing until you look around and feel out of place. It's like you've become someone else entirely, but no one else sees it the way you do. There's nothing more disorienting than feeling like a stranger in your own life. The things you used to find comfort in suddenly seem distant, and the path forward is unclear. People talk about how different you've become, but they don't understand that change isn't always visible. It's a quiet process, a shift that happens inside, where the world starts to feel like it's moving in a different direction. The hardest part about changing is trying to explain it to others. How do you make them understand that you're not trying to push them away? You're just trying to figure out who you are without their expectation weighing on you. You're not acting like a stranger, you're just finding yourself. The person you are is still there, but they're not all that you are anymore.